Hey everybody, I am here to do an update video, but also a little bit of a haul. My library twice a year has a used book sale. Probably books that some of them look like old library books, and some of them are probably books that were donated that couldn't be used in the library. So I went. I'd never been before because I feel like I missed it every year that it happened. But it happens like right before the summer and in fall, which I've just learned. Um, Definitely next time I go, I'm gonna have way more restraint. But this time I didn't. But I did find some really cool finds. So I'm gonna go over that. But first, I'm gonna show you stuff that I finished reading or library books that I'm working on right now. Because mostly I get library books. Okay, I try not to actually buy books. Although the only book that other than the haul books, other than the used books that I got, the only new book I got recently was Snow Globe 2. I did tell you guys that um, I was going to read that, and I will do a specific video for Snow Globe 2, going over the first book and the second book and what happens. I'm probably going to be spoilery, but if you want to know. So yeah, I'll go over that later. I'm not going to bring that up today. But books that I've just finished reading. Epic by John Eldridge, which is The Story God is Telling. It is such a tiny book, so impactful, so good. And, you know, like I've said a couple times, I've been going through some struggles just trying to like wrap my brain around things. And this really helped me to kind of like clear up a lot of feelings. My cat is chirping over birds, so if you hear him chirping, he's very excited. There's a lot of birdies outside. Um, but this book was really great. It kind of summarizes the Bible and God's heart for us and how our love for like stories and adventure really comes from God. Like that's something that's just in our hearts because we are also involved in a story. We are in a story that is all about good versus evil, okay? And God being the good and the devil being the evil. And that's why we are drawn to these stories of heroes who are fighting darkness or fighting some sort of evil. He like mentions Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and like Gladiator and things like that. Um, References some stories that are much beloved, right? And how even when people don't know what we're living for and why we're here, we still have this huge attraction to stories, and that's something that God's put in our hearts. We're also creatives. God, our Father, our Heavenly Father, is a creative, so we in turn are creatives. So I think that comes from there too. But as a writer and as a reader, I just really love this, and I think anybody would benefit from reading this, and you would definitely. We listen, we have a whole adventure ahead of us, when the new heaven and new earth, when Jesus comes back, or when we go home to heaven, whatever the case may be, we have a whole adventure ahead of us that we can't even begin to wrap our mind around. Like, God has so much in store. This earthly plane is not it. This earthly plane is simply a temporary home until we get to be at our official home. And if you don't know the Lord as Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, I encourage you to know him. I encourage you to pick up a Bible and read the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and see for yourself. There's so much truth there. And pick up some little supplementary books like these. It's very quick and easy to read. I think anyone would enjoy reading it, and your life will be transformed. Not by this book, but by the good book, the Bible. Another book that I just finished is actually just last night, What About Me by Joyce Meyer. Get out of your own way and discover the power of an unselfish life. And this was really impactful to me because I feel like it opened my eyes to areas where I can be more selfless. I definitely have a servant's heart. I think God has truly put that in me, and I'm very grateful for that. But I absolutely, as we all do, I absolutely suffer from selfishness and having a bad attitude sometimes when it's like, oh my gosh, I have to do this and this and this and this and this. And like, I don't want to be a complainer when it comes to doing the Lord's work or even just serving my family and just being there. And it's not about being a rug that you get walked all over. It's about being um, just willing to give and sacrifice for somebody else because you love them, because that's what Christ did for us. Okay. So, anyway, that being said, this was a great book. I want to go over it again and highlight it and stuff like that, so I'm probably going to do that. But for the first read, it was awesome, and I would definitely encourage anybody to check this out because I think every Christian, because we're all human and we all suffer from the sin nature that lives inside of us, we all need to work on our selfishness and praise God that He can help us with that. We don't do it alone. Okay. Other books, library books. I am working my way through The Selection by Kira Cass. I think I'm halfway at this point. I'm probably going to be done with this in the next day or two. Um, I am enjoying this. I was not actually expecting to, but I actually am. I really like how it's very light and fluffy on top, but like there's like this sinister undertone about like, there's rebels and the certain expectations placed on these women and stuff like that. Um, I'm curious to see what happens. I really like the main character. I think she's pretty fun. Her name's America, which is also funny. But I like her. Um, I like the Prince Maxon. I think he's really funny as well. He's kind of quirky and silly. Um, he's very like a typical prince, and but anyway, he makes me laugh. He just seems very stiff. Like, I don't know, he's funny. Um, I do find it interesting that there are references to like churches and how they still have Christmas because you can't change a deity's birthday, which is what it says in the book, even though other holidays have gone to the wayside because this is like after World War IV or something. So a lot of history and culture has been lost, but they kept Christmas. Listen, let me tell you something. Jesus is still here. Okay, of course, God never changes. But I'm just interested at the references the to God in this in Christianity. It's interesting to me. Even like the king blessed the food, which usually means that you pray over the food and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So that was funny. But anyway, I'll probably be done with this pretty soon. I don't know if I'm gonna go on with the rest of the series. I guess it depends on if I like how it ended, and if the library has them, because I'm not gonna buy these. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's quick. It's easy. And then I picked up a couple others from the library as well. I picked up The King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard, which is the Red Queen series. Um, I don't know if I'm gonna have time to read this. It's kind of thick because I picked up another thick book, but I have read The Red Queen and The Glass Sword, and I like The Red Queen and I like The Glass Sword less. But I am interested to kind of continue because I really like Victoria Aveyard's writing style and her storytelling. So I kind of want to continue. And after finishing Realm Breaker, I was kind of like feeling in a Victoria Aveyard mood. So I did pick this up. I might read it. I might not. I'm not sure yet. Because I still have Carve the Mark too, which I'm gonna read after the selection. So we'll see. But I also did pick up Blade Breaker. He's FT. It's FT. But I do want to. This is much more of a priority to me after Carve the Mark, um, than the King's Cage. But I might end up getting out. What is it called? Renewing the King's Cage just to finish it. I probably have to do that for this one too because I don't think I'm not a fast reader. Why do I pick up books that are this big? I don't know. And I also have my own like my TBR shelf that is very long. Anyway, but I am actually really excited to read this. Realm Breaker ended on a very exciting point, and of course, Blade Breaker, I'm sure is going to continue. Blade Breaker though, thinking about the spindle blades, you know what I'm saying? So whose blade is breaking? There's two spindle blades. Anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited. So those are the things that are on the docket today. Now let me show you what I picked up from the book sale. It's a lot, but a lot of them are kids books. I often buy children's books. I'm going to be an auntie soon, and I like having kids books on hand. I'm very quick, I'm very free. I'll give them away if somebody wants them, but I like to have them on hand because I like to read books to children as well, and plus they're kind of nostalgic. So one of them, Dingoes in at Dinner Time, Mary Pope Osborne, Magic Treehouse book. I have only a few of these. I used to have a lot more when I was younger. I don't know what happened to all of them, but I only have a few remaining. However, these were my childhood books. These were actually some of the first books that made me start like loving reading as a kid. So anytime I find one, I pick one up. I'm just saying. These books were all like 50 cents, so I'm like, Crazy. Oh, let me show these two. These were some Christian books that I picked up as well. Life of the Beloved, Spiritual Living in a Secular World, and Lies Women Believe and the Truth That Sets Them Free. I'm excited to check these out as well. Um, I don't know if I'll do anything vlog with that, but and then I have been wanting to get my hands on C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia books series, all of them if I can. But I found two there. I couldn't find any others, but and clearly they're mismatched. They're not from the same like um, whatever publishing or not from the same box set, I guess. But that's okay because they were 50 cents. And I'm really excited because first of all, I grew up with these. We had like books on tape with these and stuff like that, or I guess it was CD, but you know, but I want to actually own them, and so I was excited to find two of them, the first two. So we're definitely gonna read those. I'm super stoked. And then The Tale of Despero by Kate DiCamillo, excuse me. I love The Tale of Despero. I think I read it for the first time. This is gonna sound weird, but I listened to an audiobook of it for the first time last year. I'm not exactly in the age range for it, but I was just like, I've heard of this story and I've never looked into it. Let's look into it. And it was so cute and so charming. I just was like, when I saw it there, I was like, 50 cents. I think I can swing that. Um, and then we have Pocahontas by Joseph Bruca. I don't know how to say that, but I just thought this would be an interesting historical fiction, and I love historical fiction, and it's obviously for children. So, Peter and the Starcatchers by Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson. I don't know anything about this. I know that it is a play. I have a friend who's been in the play. Um, I have not seen the play. I just know that it's there. So I was just like, well, this looks like fun. It's a kid's book, and again, it's 50 cents. I can't say no. Uh, The Grave Thief by Dee Han. I really, what attracted me to this was the cover. I thought the cover looked interesting. The back's even pretty, and the inside part read really interesting. So the boy on the front cover, boy, he is named Spade, and he's a grave thief. And with his father and brother, he digs up the recently deceased to steal jewels, the main form of trade in Windhale. And so he does that for a long time, but then he ends up getting caught, and and then everything changes when Spade and his brother get caught in a royal trap. In exchange for their freedom, Spade must find the Master of Wogan, a deadly creature that is stalking the castle by night. Dun 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 dun. But it also mentions in here that um, Spade has a limp, and the reason why he doesn't mind grave digging at night is that no one notices him and no one notices his limp. So I'm intrigued that this is maybe a little guy with a disability, and I think this is the princess as well. And to see how they maybe work that into story could be fun. I think it's awesome when main characters have some form of I don't know, I'm going to say disability. I don't know if that's the correct term, but, um, that doesn't impair them, but in fact empowers them to be able to do what they need to do. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Um, so I'll see how this goes. I don't know if I'm going to keep it or end up giving it away if I like it or not, but I figured it would be a fun read. So it was in the kids section, so I think it'll be a quick read. And then I couldn't believe that I found this. Remember Me by Tracy Pearson. I picked this up at the library not that long ago, and I started it. I started a couple chapters, but I didn't have enough time to read it, and I was prioritizing my bigger, thicker books. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to get it out when I'm done with the bigger, thicker books. But then I saw it, and I was like, and they only had the first one, then the third one, and I didn't want to pick up the third one without the second one, and I also didn't want to pick up the third one without knowing that I would even read it, because I did like the start of it, don't get me wrong, but I'm like, let's just read the first one and see if we like it. So this is historical fiction. It's about a woman, the woman on the front, who her name's Addie Bryant. I just double checked. And she basically comes from a very poor situation. Her father and brothers were seeking gold in the Yukon, and she was just kind of dragged along for the ride. But then when they ran out of money, they sold her to like essentially this like bad brothel situation. But she ended up being liked by the owner's son, the owner. He becomes the owner, and he ends up marrying her and making a honest woman out of her and all that. So it's like, okay, at least there's that. But then he ends up getting killed, and she ends up having to basically run away because her brothers are now after her because she has all of this money from having been the owner's wife. So anyway, it's very interesting. I didn't get very far. That's about as far as I got, which is pretty much the prologue. So, but I'm excited to actually continue reading. I couldn't believe I found that. I was so excited. Oh, and then this, dude, Jade Fire Gold. I actually by June CL10. I don't know, but I actually have this on my Goodreads as a want to read. Okay, and this is an advanced reader copy, and it's not for sale, but I bought it for 50 cents. So. It also has a sticker that says Indie Next List nominations. I don't know. This someone must have been on a list for this, but I really wanted to read this. I think it's based on yeah, it's based on Chinese mythology and folk tales. And this is a debut novel, okay? And I have no idea what it's going to be like, but I'm actually really excited to read it. So I couldn't believe 50 cents, bro. Yes. Okay, and now we're getting into historical fiction, historical books. So this is not fiction. This is Unbroken, which there was a movie made. I loved the movie. This is based in World War II. It follows what's his name? Zamperini, Louis Zamperini, who he was in World War II. He was a pilot. His plane ends up going down in the middle of the ocean, and he's there with two other guys, and they end up, well, the two of them, one of them ends up passing away in the raft, but two of them end up surviving, Zamperini and his friend, and they get taken by the Japanese into prison camp. And it's basically about his survival during that time period. The movie is amazing. I can't speak highly enough about the movie. And there's a lot of faith content in there as well because he's a man of faith. You would have to be in that situation, dude. You would just have to be. How else could you endure? But I'm really excited to read the book version of it that it was based on. And again, it's just such a powerful message of human resiliency and also the power of faith to get you through really horrific. Like I can't even wrap my brain around it, dude. I can't even. But um, I'm excited. And then this is really interesting. George Washington's Secret Six, the spy ring that saved the American Revolution. Excuse me. I, for one, love the Revolutionary War time period of America. I think it is fascinating. I think it is like just shows again, it's just human resiliency at its core and standing up for what's right and standing up against, you know, England, I guess. But, there was a lot of really interesting things that happened during that time. And I don't know. I just thought it would be a fun read. It's pretty small, so I don't think it'll take very long. I think it'll get to the point nice and quickly. But I don't know what this is about. I never knew about the Secret Six, so I'm curious. And then lastly is a book that I've already read, but I don't own and I love, which is The Help by Catherine Stockett. I've always loved the movie. I love the movie. And I read the or listened to the audiobook last year and I thought the book was even better. It's a big book, but like the movie's good in that it's much more straightforward and tells the story, but this really goes into more depth with each of the characters and really explains their plights and the things that they've gone through. And like it goes into more about, and there's some things that are like, yeah, okay, like it goes more into like Skeeter's romance life, but it also goes into more with that woman who keeps having miscarriages and anyway, and how she helps her overcome that, and more into the main characters. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to Abeline. I'm trying to remember the name. How Abeline deals with the woman she works for and things like that. Anyway, the book is just amazing, and I was really knowing that this because the hardcovers were only $1. I was like, I would really like to have this on hand, even to just let people borrow it if they want to, because this book, it's such a horrible time in our history, the time of segregation and things like that, but it's also not that long ago. And some states I know still suffer from segregation in maybe not in as obvious ways as this, but it still happens. We as humans, as fallen humans, we just love to segregate each other. And I don't understand that, but there will come a day when that's no longer a thing. However, um, it's it's hard to read how normalized it was that people just lived that way and it was just the expectation. And yet I think it is so important for us to know what that was like, even in a small historical fiction way, and of course read actual history books, read actual accounts. That is the most important. But I think it's our duty to know so that we can stand up when we see things like this happen. So anyway, long story short, The Help is a great book. I would highly recommend it to anybody. So that's a lot of books. A lot of them are children's books, really, and some of them are books that I've already read that I just actually wanted to own. And since they were only $1 or 50 cents, I was like, yeah, I think I can swing it. I definitely, if I go to the one in September, am going to have a much stronger hold on myself about what I spend. Again, all of these books, plus I did buy 3 books for my mom and a book for my brother, because they couldn't come, and I bought a book for my sister too. Um, I think I only spent $11.50. I'm pretty sure that was it. So barely the price of a not like half. I got like 15 books or something for half the price of a hardcover new book, because I think Snow Globe 2 was like 20 something dollars, um, which is worth it for me because I like the series, but I try not to buy books full price if I can help it, or if I can just get them from the library. We're getting them from the library for free books. Anyway, that's going to be it. I don't think I have anything else to say, but I hope you guys are having a good day. And just remember, or actually, before I go to just remember, tell me what books you're reading. Do you love a good book sale? And how do you feel about what's your favorite genre? Because I just showed you a bunch of genres. Do you like young adult genre? Do you like fantasy? Are you big on historical fiction or historical accounts? Or do you like reading children's books sometimes because that's fun? It makes you just don't have to think about anything. It's just delightful. Um, Let me know. And just remember that I love you and Jesus loves you way more. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.